Hey guys, welcome to NotableInk.com. I am here with an alcohol ink and stencil technique. And this is going to be featuring the Hedgehog Hollow December 2019 kit, but you could also use this with any stencils and stamps that you may have. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that down below, and as always, I'll have all products listed below. So here are some items from the kit we're going to be using. This is the extra small stamp set if you're a regular subscriber. This is the heart ornament stamp set, the heart doodle stamp set, and then lastly we have the stencil. Now this is a really cool stencil because it comes in two different pieces. You can use them together or separately for different looks. And today we're going to be using that centerpiece. So this is mainly going to focus on, and I'm also going to be using Ranger foil sheets to add a little bit of gold to these panels as well. So this is mainly going to be about the stencils and the alcohol inks, but I hadn't done alcohol inks in a while, so I wanted to do a warm-up piece. I have a piece of A2 size Costco glossy photo paper, and I'm using the back side of the paper. I have a whole ream of this, and so I just want to use it up before I purchase more Yupo. Off to the side, I have a little container of just plain alcohol, and I have a little dropper that I'm adding alcohol to the page first before I add my alcohol inks. For alcohol inks, I'm using Altenew Artist Marker refills in the colors Cotton Candy and Pink Pearl, I believe that is. No, it's not. It's Peach Perfect that I'm using. So a little bit of a vibrant pink and then a peachy pink. And so I'm just going to keep adding some alcohol to my panel and then dropping in the colors. Now, the reason I'm doing the alcohol first is because I find that the colors move better that way. You may not need to do that on Yupo paper. You know, the photo paper may be reacting a little bit differently, but I just find that the colors move much easier if I drop in the alcohol first. Now, that will lighten up your colors just a bit, but they're still so vibrant and beautiful that I'm totally okay with that. And of course, here you can see I'm using my heat tool in order to move those colors around. For the stamping, I'm using Stazon pigment ink in piano black, and I'll have all the supplies that I use listed down below for you guys. And so I'm just going to stamp this on here. Now, because I used a lot of alcohol ink on this panel, there were a couple areas that were still a bit tacky. And you can see that the pigment ink stamped really well where it was dry, less well where it was still a little bit tacky. So I'm going to stamp it a second time, but I'm still going to have some patchiness. And rather than fight with it, and I didn't want to really wait for it to dry, I just kind of wanted to move on, I went ahead and took a gold gel pen and just filled in those areas just to add, because I was going to add some foil to some of these panels anyway. So I went ahead and just used that gold gel pen, filled in those areas where it was missing, added a little more gold to the rest of the panel, added some gold sequins, and called it a day. Now moving on to the stencil technique, which is why we're here. Okay, I'm just going to give this a try. So I sprayed the back of the stencil with some pixie spray. I'm going to take my Teflon bone folder and just run it over the back to try and get it good and adhered. People, you can skip this part because this really did nothing. Like, even though it had the pixie spray on the back, the alcohol seeps right underneath that stencil. So just don't even go there. Just save your spray. So then I'm going to take the alcohol ink and just squirt some down, and you can see it already seeping underneath the stencil, but I'm still moving ahead. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. That might have a really cool kind of like stampy effect. So I'm drying what's on top. Now make sure you stay far away from your stencil. You don't want to heat your stencil and melt it. So stay far away from the paper, stay far away from your stencil, and keep moving your tool. Because you can warp this paper really easily as well. You can totally melt it since it's plastic paper. So what's happening is the exposed alcohol ink is drying, but the ink that's underneath the stencil is staying wet. So then I went to move it away from the ink on the side, and I totally shifted the stencil. I was so jacked up by that, you guys. So then I was like, okay, well, let me dry it. Then I pulled it off, and I hated it. I didn't like it at all. So I'm drying it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it'll look better when I dry it. I didn't like it. So I set it aside. I went ahead and took the stencil and another piece of this Costco paper, and I smashed it down in there and figured, okay, well, I can use this as a stamp. So let's see what happens if I use this as a stamp. I wasn't sure if there was enough ink on there or if it had dried too much. You know, it didn't look like it was creating an impression everywhere. So then what I decided to do is I'm drying it a little bit, and then I decided to spray it with a little bit of alcohol. And that should be coming just a minute. Now I've left all of this stencil part at real time so that you could see how it was going. So I sprayed it with alcohol, did a little bit of drying, and I'm gonna take this off, and it's a super light effect. And I was like, okay, you don't get the word at all. You know, it says love in the middle, but I was like, that's a pretty cute background. Now, I do end up liking that other panel, and I really thought I was going to be pitching that other panel. Otherwise, I would have positioned this heart in a completely different place. I don't love that both of the cards have the heart in the same exact place, but that's where we are. So moving on from that. So I'm just drying this. This is a really soft look. Here it is a little bit closer, and like I said, I really like that soft look. So now we need to clean our stencil, right? So we've got all this alcohol ink on here. Yep, we're just gonna spray it with alcohol. So I keep a spray bottle of alcohol on my desk. I just find it's really handy to clean my glass mat too. So I just sprayed it with alcohol. I'm gonna put a just baby wipe on top of that. And then I'm going to flip it over, spray it again. And I did this twice. I believe I sprayed both sides twice, and everything came up just fine. I don't think I would have any problems using this stencil on any other projects and having the alcohol transfer or the alcohol ink transfer over to anything else. It cleaned up really nicely. Or maybe I just do it once. Yeah, looks like I just do it once. So there we go. Once my surface was clean, I moved on to doing the foil technique, and I went back to this one. There were still some tacky areas, so that was sitting aside while I was doing the lighter one. And I just put the foil over, kind of went over the back with my bone folder to make sure that it was good and adhered, and then took it off. So the lighter piece really didn't have any buildup of those tacky areas, so not much gold transferred to that one at all. Now, for the other two panels, I stamped the sentiments in black. This one was so light, I felt like the black ink would look really out of place. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the bird and the sentiment in clear embossing ink, and I'm going to gold emboss it. So since I didn't get much gold transfer with the foil, we'll add some gold embossing powder to this. So I am using Wow Rich Pale Gold, and I transferred this to a little bin ages ago. It's been in this bin for years, and I've since learned that the Wow powders are treated with an anti-static technique, or they somehow make them anti-static, and so you should keep them in the jars that they come in. You should not transfer them into these little bins. So I'm just using a clean brush to knock off any of the extra powder, and then we'll go ahead and heat set this. When heating embossing, I get a better result if I start heating from behind and kind of warm up that embossing powder and then come to the front. Now, again, this is plastic paper, so you have to take your time with this. You cannot be impatient with this plastic paper. You have to stay far away, get things good and preheated, preheat the tool, preheat the paper from behind, then from the front. And then once you feel like things are kind of heated up, then you can come in with some short bursts where you get a little bit closer, but you need to pull your tool away pretty quickly to make sure that you don't get any melting of your paper. And that's my technique that I use, and it turns out pretty well. So here I have the other card. I haven't added the gold pen to that yet, and I need to add a sentiment to this one. Okay, so this one clearly has a lot more ink on it than the other two panels do. And look at that. That's rubbish. That is terrible stamping. So I did it again, got a little bit darker. These pigment pads I absolutely love. So if I'm stamping on like a metallic paper or like paper like this, usually it's golden. It's awesome. One stamping and you're done, but they are a little drier than the original Stazon. So I thought, okay, well, let me give that a try. It's a little bit more of a wet ink, and that did seem to work better. And I did not end up filling in any of the spaces with gold pen on this one. So I did get a better stamping with the original Stazon ink. To finish off the cards, I added some gold confetti from Pretty Pink Posh and to this one as well. And that is all, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this technique and will give it a try. If you do, tag me at Notable Ink on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to see what you're making. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. The bell button will alert you as I upload new content, and please hit the like button. That's the only way YouTube will share this out to other people, which is super helpful to me and all the other YouTubers. Thanks a lot for stopping by, and I'll see you real soon with more inspiration.